Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto lands in a world of magic and swords due to an experiment, part 1. Subscribe if you enjoy the video, let's start the story. In another world. Are you sure we should be doing this? A young man spoke to an elderly man wearing the robes of a mage, and they were before a massive device that resembled a giant solarium with several crystal globes in several rings around them. The elderly mage was still intent on studying the device in the ruined tower. This had been the site of some sort of experiment made by a mage many centuries before, but was eventually abandoned due to certain circumstances. Why complain? We're here to see if this magical artifact can be worth something to the guild. The study of this device could prove to be the key to many things here for our world. But sir, wasn't that device outlawed when it was discovered to be highly unstable? That was long ago. Besides, magic has improved since then, and this device could go a very long way in making transportation of many things even more effective when time is of the essence, and not to be wasted. The device was a dimensional portal, designed to take objects and move them through a tunnel of magic and send them to another place entirely without the need of traveling for days, weeks, months or even years. But the portal was not used for a long time, as many fought to control it, and the mage decided to shut it down. How can we even get it to work? But this crystal would prove to be the key for it all. It has more than enough energy to do its work. The mage revealed a massive crystal, and it glowed with great power. The mage then without warning placed it into a bowl, and the device activated, and the mage spoke, startling the man. Wait, Master Rolf. We haven't even tested the device yet. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, my young apprentice. We need to see if it can still open a portal. In the Naruto world. Man, what a life. Naruto woke up in his new room and shook the cobwebs from his mind and got up to look out the window of his new apartment. And the sounds of the morning were very good to his ears. It had been nearly 2 years since the fall of Uchiha Madara and Akatsuki, as well as the defeat of Danzo's faction, when the old goat tried to take power from Tsunade. He had just managed to finally complete what his father, the fourth Hokage known also as Minato Namikaze, had planned for him to use, and that granted him full control over the power of the Kyuubi without being overwhelmed by it all. That proved the key when he fought with Pain, and he decimated the leader of Akatsuki, and then fought with Madara, fulfilling the prophecy of him being the child of destiny. He had turned from the destroyer to the savior, and had saved many lives, including Hinata and Shizun's lives, as well as those who had been killed by Pain when he attacked. The leader of Akatsuki had been destroyed by him and the Kyuubi, and he was able to do the same to Madara, and then use the gift Itachi had given him to defeat Sasuke when his former friend came back to fight and destroy Konoha. That had been a bitter fight, but in the end he won, and Sasuke had been restrained. Team Hawk came back, but he had been ready, and he defeated them with the help of the others, and he had managed to stop Sasuke, and he had worked hard to bring peace back to Konoha ever since. The last of the Uchiha had been given a chance to get his justice on the three, who were the ones who had his clan destroyed, but Naruto defeated him when he turned on Konoha. After he was beaten, he was banished, as his Sharingan finally was sealed away by the curse on it. That had been hard for him and Sakura, but it had to be done after all, and it was the path that Sasuke walked when he turned on Konoha. The former Konoha ninja and his team were banished and were never seen again for the past year. Naruto placed those thoughts aside for now and got dressed in his usual garb and wore the red and black long coat he had gotten, and then looked at the picture he had of his team and the picture of Kakashi and Jiraiya. That was the hardest for him, losing two good sensei, but at least their names and their deeds were never going to leave his memory. And he finally saw the picture of his father and mother together with Jiraiya, and then there was another set of pictures on his table. The first was with him, Sakura, Sai and Yamato, as Sai chose to side with him and aided in defeating Danzo, as well as became a good friend. The second was with Gamabunta, and both Ma and Pa owed after they had recovered, and the other one was very important, it was him with Sakura and Hinata with all smiles. He smiled and took the pictures with him to remember always. He had been able to take the Chunin exams and finally graduated to being Chunin, though many said he was already a Jonin ninja and a Sannin as well. He was one step closer to being a Hokage, and it made him happy that he had finally helped bring peace to the land. As he got out of his new apartment fully dressed and carrying the Toad summoning contract on his back, he was smiling as he spotted Sai, Sakura, Hinata, Yamato, along with Konohamaru and Iruka, and knew that there was a lot to do at the moment. However, he was suddenly alerted by the Kyuubi. Watch it if something doesn't feel right. What are you saying, Kyuubi? He heard a massive tearing sound behind him, and he turned to see some sort of glowing gate in the shape of a star behind him. He didn't know what it was, but then felt something dragging him towards it, and he panicked and tried to get away, but the force was too much. And he was completely caught off guard by this. Sakura and the others were shocked when the gate opened and began to suck Naruto in, and they quickly rushed to try and help him. Hinata was very much terrified and shouted out, "Naruto-kun." It was too late, as Naruto was sucked through the glowing symbol and it vanished, leaving the group stunned as Hinata and Sakura were shaken by what happened. Yamato turned and decided to hurry and report to Tsunade on what had just happened. He knew she was not going to like this. In another place, Naruto shook his head as he felt like throwing up. He forced himself to relax and found himself in a forest, and he felt a tingling in his body, and the Kyuubi spoke. "This place feels alive somehow, there's so much chakra here, where the heck are we?" Naruto had no idea and moved up to the forest and climbed up a tree, and, as soon as he did so, he found himself in a totally alien world, as there was no sign of the Hokage monument anywhere and there was no sign of Konoha at all. It was then that he spotted a massive city and decided to move there. "There's a city, maybe we can find some answers there. I hope something about this place makes me feel different, and I don't mean in a nice way." It had taken some time, but Naruto arrived near the outskirts and saw the possible name of the city. "Oh, fun. What kind of a name is that?" "Don't know either, but I am sensing a lot of chakra in that direction. We might as well head off there and see just what we can find." Naruto knew that he didn't have much in terms of options at the moment and decided to go down there and see just what it was he could find that could at least give him a clue as to how he got there in the first place. Later, Naruto was getting all the more irritated by all this. This place known as Fun had literally nothing that he could associate with Konoha. There were no electrical posts, no Hokage monument, no Konoha Academy, and worse yet, no ramen. He had entered the city through the front gate as he replied that he was looking for someone to the guards, which was not far from the truth, and then they spotted the scroll on his back, and apparently that was enough to let him come into the city. "Where the hell am I?" Naruto tried to find anyone remotely familiar in Ofun, but had no such luck. It was weird being here. There seemed to be nothing that resembled anything he was familiar with back home. He had explored the city for the past 2 hours, and still nothing. However, the blonde Chunin felt something and turned to see a stall that had some artifacts in them, and he felt great energy coming from some of them. He moved closer and looked at them, and the stall owner spoke. "Hey there, friend. Care to buy some magical wares for your studies?" Magical studies. The store owners were surprised at this and wondered just who he was. He was not dressed as a swordsman, and that massive scroll on his back must mean he was a mage of some sort. Maybe he was suffering from some side effect of a spell. It was not unusual for some spells to cause some slight memory loss, or so he heard. "Yeah, are you a student of the Magic Guild?" "Magic? I should have known that the thing that dragged us here was a magical portal." "Magical portal? What are you saying, Kyuubi?" "It'll take a while to explain, but magical portals are ancient gateways from other worlds. I encountered a few when I was younger. Whoever opened that portal must have dragged us here. Do you think magic can bring us back to Konoha?" "Possible, but we're going to have to find a great source of power, as well as a powerful enough magic user to get us there. Magic is a bit like chakra manipulation and control, though it usually needs a medium of some sort to channel the power better. That magic guild might have the answers we need." Naruto thought about it and knew that now was the time to lie somewhat. "No, I just arrived here." "Oh? So you're a new arrival hoping to study here?" "You might say that. Do you know where I can find the Magic Guild?" "Yeah, it's in the academic quarter of the city, and you can't miss it. It's got the highest tower here in the city." "Oh yeah, there was a young mage who passed by here and was on her way to the academy. She's got red hair with a long tail on the back and wears glasses." Naruto nodded and left, hoping to find the person described to him by the stall owner. He then decided to hit the walls and climb the roofs, and quickly did so with ease, much to the surprise of some of the people nearby. He quickly leaped over the roofs of several buildings and searched as best he could. He then heard a cry. "Leave me alone." The voice was female, and Naruto could tell that the person was indeed in trouble, and he headed in that direction, and when he arrived there were a couple of unwashed thugs cornering a young woman who had deep red hair and glasses. Naruto realized that this person must be the one that the stall owner mentioned, but damn, she was attractive. Naruto managed to get his head out of that train of thought for a moment and could tell that the thugs were up to something and he had to help. Ayla was not happy with this as she tried to ready a spell. The thugs were following her when she left the eyes of the city watch after shopping in the magical artifacts quarter of Fun. She tried to lose them in the alleys, but since she had not ventured out as often from the guild like the other students, she had no idea about the city as much as they did, and now here she was. "Stay away from me." The men laughed. They were very much not going to listen, as they were aware she had the look of a merchant's daughter and would be worth a lot of money to her folks, plus it had been a while. "Don't worry, little lady, we're just going to have some fun with you." "Yeah, it's been a while now." The lustful looks they had on their faces were not lost to Isla, and she felt even greater panic as she tried to focus her spell and then unleashed a powerful flare. That was enough to surprise the thugs, and she tried to escape, but one of them tripped her, and she lost her glasses. She felt a hand grab her arm wickedly, and the voice of the thug. "So a magic user, eh? This will be great." Isla was about to cry and wish for rescue. She got her wish when the thug gave out a cry of pain and released her. She scrambled away and managed to find her glasses as she heard several more shouts of pain, and when she got on her glasses, she realized that she and her tormentors were not alone, as another was there. "Leave the lady alone, you rats." Isla looked at her rescuer and found herself staring at a young man with spiky blonde hair and wore some sort of long-sleeved shirt in black and pants along with sandals and a red long coat with black flames and a massive scroll on his back as well as a pouch of some sort on his left leg. She then looked at the face and gasped as she saw that his rescuer was handsome. He had deep blue eyes and a well-featured face, and there were 3 marks on his cheeks that didn't detract his features at all. The headband on his head had a strange spiral symbol that resembled a leaf. Hey, Minato was considered very handsome, and since Jiraiya stated that Naruto looked so much like his father, then no doubt Naruto at the age of 17 is going to look like his old man. The thugs got up, and Isla saw that some of them were wounded by strange star-shaped metallic weapons, and they got those out and threw them away, and they took out their weapons such as knives and short swords. "You punk. We're going to cut you up." Naruto glared at that and replied. "I don't think so, Kage Bushin no Jutsu." Isla and the thugs were dumbfounded as there were explosions of smoke, then instead of one man there were a dozen near him who looked just like him. Before the thugs could react, the group charged at them and began to unleash hell as Naruto and his Kage Bushin used his taijutsu to fight with, and since Guy had taught him a good number of moves to honor Kakashi. The blonde Chunin had a level of skill equaling his old friend Lee when he was still a genin. The thugs were sent packing to the ground by the blows as they couldn't seem to defend themselves properly, and they fell back to the ground with bruises and injuries in areas they had no idea they had. The unknown arrival then offered his hand to one of the other copies, and the other one began to move his hands, and then there was a glowing sphere on the hand of the new arrival, and then without any other words, the arrival slammed the sphere into a nearby wall. The thugs and Isla were shocked by the massive explosion that followed. Dust and stone fragments filled the air, and when it cleared, the thugs gasped and felt like pissing in their pants as there was a massive hole in the wall, and the man spoke them as he was joined by another copy. And then the same sphere of glowing light came back into his hand. "Unless you all want that to tear you all open, I suggest you run." The thugs took the advice and ran, taking on a man who could make copies of himself and hit like a sledgehammer was painful enough, but facing a mage who could rip them apart like they were tissue paper with that spell of his was something they were planning to stick around for. Isla was impressed. She had never heard of that move before, and it was impressive indeed that a rescuer could do that without a wand. She looked at her rescuer as he offered his hand to help her get up from the ground she was sitting on. She blushed a bit and accepted his hand, and, as soon as she got up, she remembered her manners and spoke. "Thank you, my name is Isla." Naruto smiled at that and replied back. "My name's Naruto Uzumaki." It was then that the city watch arrived, and so did a certain headmaster of the Magic Guild. Headmaster Caress had been on a routine trip to the market to check the latest supply of goods and magical components to add to the academy selection when he detected a massive spike in the spiritual energies, and when he arrived it was to see several unwashed men running away as if they had seen a dragon chasing them. It was then when Isla arrived with a new arrival, someone he didn't recognize, and when he saw the wall, he could see the devastation there and couldn't help but sense the energies released by the elemental spirits. And, as he looked at the young man who walked with Isla towards him, he could see a great deal of power coming from him. This young man would prove an interesting person. Later, both Isla, her classmate Jean, and Caress watched as Naruto downed the food before at a very rapid pace. They were not used to seeing someone pack away so much food before in their lives. Naruto had eaten a whole roasted chicken, some bread, 3 beef steaks, and a lot of hot soup made from fish, squid, and crabs. Where was he putting it all? Naruto had no idea he was this hungry, and, as much as he wanted to have ramen, he had to make do. He already knew that using Ryo was out of the question, as paper money was no doubt worthless, as he had seen the people pay with solid coins of gold. Thus he would have to find other means to get funding, but at least he was getting a free meal. As soon as he was done, he gave a sigh and replied. "Now I am full, thanks a great deal for the food, Mr. Carwis." Caress smiled at that. He had always been called Master Caress before, and being called Mr. was something of a change. "You are quite welcome, Naruto. I have to thank you for saving one of my academy students." "Yes. That was amazing the way you were able to make those copies of yourself and then summon that massive energy sphere to send those men running. And without a wand too. What do you mean by that, Isla? Isla smiled as she looked at her new friend with a great deal of hero worship in her eyes as she began to explain what she had seen Naruto do to save her life to Caress. It was an amazing master Caress. He threw those star-like weapons at the thugs to wound them and then created copies of himself without a wand. He and the copies attacked so fast. Bam, whap. And defeated the thugs like they were mere children, and he then used one of the copies to create a sphere of pure light and then he slammed it into the wall and it exploded. Boom. When the dust cleared, there was a massive hole in the wall, and when Naruto and his copy made another one, the thugs just left. Caress was intrigued. As head of the magic guild he was familiar with spells that could create copies of the caster, but he had never heard of it being done without a wand before. If this young man was able to do that without a wand, then he would make a powerful mage indeed with the right training. Naruto scratched his head and wondered just what he was going to do on how to explain his abilities. Apparently the people here were not all that familiar with chakra and he would have to explain it again. It was confusing already to be somewhere where no one knew who or what he was, not to mention that the things he normally knew existed, like TV, electricity, refrigeration, and more were not around, and that was beginning to annoy him to no end, but these were nice people, and he needed help. And since Isla and Caress, as well as Jean were magic users, they could help him. Actually, that wasn't magic. Oh? You're not a magic user? I rather doubt that anyone who could create copies of himself and then create a powerful sphere of energy must be a magic user. Naruto shook his head and replied. Those things I did required me to use chakra actually, they don't use magic. Isla, Jean and Carwis were surprised by this as they had never heard of chakra before and the head of the magic guild in Ofen decided to ask the question. What is chakra, Naruto? Naruto scratched his head and wished that he had more time to explain things, but decided to do what he could in order to educate his companions. He thought back of the lectures he had in the academy, as well as Iruka's words on the matter concerning chakra. Chakra is an energy source in living things such as plants, animals, and people. They come from two sources, the physical energy inherent in the body and the cells, and the second source is from the spiritual and mental one gets from exercise and experience. We use chakra where I come from to create. Justice. Naruto nodded and replied. Jutsus are techniques that rely on chakra exclusively to be used. Jutsus like the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu require a great deal of chakra, so low level require very little. The size and complex nature of the means you use up more chakra to do this successfully, so you might call it magic where I come from. Chakra even has an elemental affinity which can make it useful for certain that require elemental affinity. Elemental affinity? Yep, there are at least 5 elemental chakra types where I came from: fire, wind, water, earth, and lightning. Back home, we use a special paper grown from trees fed with chakra that reacts when chakra is passed through it. Fire burns it to ash, lightning crumples it, earth makes it fall apart, wind rips it into two, and water soaks it. For me, I'm a wind chakra type, so I'm more attuned to using wind-based jutsu. Sometimes two chakra types can fuse to create a totally different element, and that can be very powerful. We mostly use hand seals to use chakra properly for A, and there are many combinations. Interesting. So where is it that you come from, Naruto? I have never heard of things like this before in my many years before I settled to found the Magic Academy here in Ofun. Are there others like you? Naruto looked about and was very worried about what he was going to have to say, as much as he needed help from Caress and Isla if they could help at all. The blonde Chunin knew that he had to be in a much safer place to get things done, and he spoke to them. I don't think being in a restaurant is the right place to discuss these matters. Is there anywhere else a lot more private? Caress could tell that this was serious indeed and knew of 2 places they could go, and since that one was a bit closer, then all the better, plus he had an old friend that could be willing to hear this. In the Temple of Mylee. Wow, what a place. Naruto had seen a lot of places for the past many years, yet this one was amazing. This was the first time he had ever walked into a temple, as Caress called it, and there were a huge number of people there in the temple, and all dressed in some sort of white long dress. And had embroidery on them plus a short cape in green or light blue colors, and some sort of cap. To his amazement, a vast majority of them were women, and many of them were attractive. Isla had wanted to come with them, but she had to head back as she was still needing to study for her lessons. He still hoped to see Sakura and Hinata again, so he managed to get his thoughts back on track, but had to admit that seeing a beautiful woman or more than one beautiful woman could grab him easily. He was older now, and maybe his pervy sage of a teacher had finally rubbed off on him. Naruto gave a sad thought of the pervy sage who was his godfather and his father's sensei as well. He placed those thoughts aside as they entered a large room, and then there was a table and some chairs, and there was a woman with long auburn hair there wearing robes that were the same, but different from Carcass, almost more holy in nature, reminding him of Sean's own robes, as a priestess. She had a motherly smile, and that made him feel more at ease. "Hello there, Caress, it's always a pleasure to see you here." Caress smiled and responded. "It's good to see you too, Jenny. I would like you to meet Naruto Uzumaki, a lad with an exceptional gift and, as far as I can see, a great deal of potential as a sorcerer. But he has much to tell us, and some of it is too private to be anywhere else. I welcome Naruto Uzumaki. My name is Jenny, and I am head priestess of Meili the war god. Caress and I were partners and good friends for many years, and I am happy to welcome you here." Naruto smiled as he could tell that Jenny meant her greetings, and he felt a bit more at ease as the three of them sat down. An acolyte brought some refreshments to the room and left, and, as soon as he was ready, he spoke to the two friends. He told them of the history of his world and how it came to be and what ninjas were and who he was. Jenny was somewhat surprised to learn that ninjas were assassins and explained that assassins were reviled by many in this world and by its people. But Naruto explained that only on very desperate situations was assassination called for. He told them about chakra and all that he knew about it, as well as what he had learned from Iruka, Kakashi and Jiraiya, as well as Tsunade and Shizune. He even told them that he could sense that the two of them had considerable chakra, and with the right training, both mental, spiritual and physical, both of them could make very good level ninjas. He told them also of the village he came from without getting into too much detail, as well as the lands and customs of the places he had seen in his many years and his own adventures with his team, and then he moved to a topic that he knew would be hard for him. They're the tailed beasts. Caress and Jenny were shocked at hearing about the existence of such powerful and malevolent entities, and the fact that he harbored one inside of him made them uneasy, let alone the most powerful of their kind. He couldn't blame them, he was committing a mistake telling them this. But he had grown up and he had changed thanks to so many people. He told them about Iruka who stood by him even when the truth came out, about Gaara who was like him, and how he had changed the former Jinchuriki of Shukaku, as well as Iruka, Chiyo, Jiraiya, Shizune. Tsunade who trusted him with the future, and of course his parents and his father Minato, who taught him that to finally be able to become the child of destiny he was destined to be. He also told them of his friends who were very important to him and no doubt who were waiting for him to return home. As he was finished with that part, he explained how he landed here in their world and then asked them the question that was very important to him. "I know what I told you is hard to believe, and believe me, even I can't believe it, but I am from another world and I need help getting back there. A lot of my friends are very worried about me and I want to make sure that I can see them again since both of you are magic users. Maybe you can help me get home?" Caress and Jenny had to admit that Naruto's story was very incredible, but they knew that their powers were not enough. The description of what Naruto saw convinced them that it was a magical portal that brought him to their world from his own. The problem was that the magic needed for it was not easy for one to have in the body and would require a powerful source of magical energy, not to mention that it required a powerful device to focus such energy to create and stabilize the portal. However, there was a chance for Naruto to return home, but he still needed to learn as much as he could about magic, to learn as much as he needed in order to get home to his own world. He had the potential and the ability after all, and he could very well learn magic. Caress was the first to work on the idea. "Naruto, from what you've told Jenny and I, you were taken into this world from a dimensional magic portal, and no doubt it was powered by something that requires a considerable amount of power. Neither Jenny nor I have that power, however, we have a solution." Naruto was disappointed at first at hearing that the two couldn't help him, but hearing that they had a solution, he was already all ears. "Go on. The records we have in the Magic Guild and Fund can be able to help you in finding the materials, artifacts, and also the possible locations of power where you can make a portal, however it will not be an easy thing. Access to such information is normally restricted to outsiders unless you become a student in the Magic Guild. Not only that, you have to be familiar with magic and magical artifacts as well, which requires years of study and hard dedication. That is why I would like to offer you a personal invitation to be a student in the Magic Guild here in Ofen. It can help you uncover the information that you seek, as well as learn the magical skill and ability needed in making a portal. Portals are hard to make in themselves, but without the skill needed to maintain and direct them, you could wind up in another place entirely. Is it alright for you, Naruto?" Jenny then replied. "There are many ruins and artifacts that can help you find a way to return home to young Naruto, but only if you know just where to look and how to use them. I believe learning magic will go a long way in helping you while you are here, so I have to agree with Master Caress's suggestion that you study in the academy, Naruto." Naruto thought it over and then Kyuubi spoke to him. I suggest you take their advice, kid. They know magic and they are right. Unless you know what you're doing, how you control magic, and you know what you need in order to make the portal, you're going to be sent to who knows where." Naruto mulled it over and decided that if this was the best way for him to find his way back home to Konoha and keep it from harm, then he might as well learn as much as he could about magic and what else could prove useful for him. After all, he could use the things here to help better himself in the long run. His quest to be a Hokage was not over yet, and also his desire to make peace and happiness in the world he lived in like his sensei Jiraiya did was not gone just yet. Plus his desire to use his own way to bring peace, as his father wanted him to do, was there. He might be here by accident, but he could always do his best no matter the odds. With that in mind, he nodded to both Caress and Jenny and replied, "Thank you for letting me do this. I will do my best to learn magic, and I will do my best not to be a burden to you both." Caress and Jenny smiled at this. They both knew that while this was highly unusual by most if not all standards, they both could tell that Naruto would be a very interesting person. And they could see that despite his past he was a strong person and had overcome many things to become the young man before them, and that made him all the more an interesting young man. Caress then spoke for both Jenny and himself. "Then I, Caress of the Magic Guild of Fun, welcome you Naruto Uzumaki to the Magic Guild." In another part of Naruto's new world. Ralph coughed as the dust cleared and saw that the tower had collapsed. The strain of the magical energies had weakened and destroyed the device, as well as the tower, but he had the blueprints with him. And that would help him a great deal in perfecting the device when the time came for him to try again. He would have to rebuild his funds to buy the materials he needed and the time to work in peace. But with these plans, this new device could usher in a new era for all of the land. A few months later. Voltus looked over his list of students for the day and turned to see none other than Naruto Uzumaki sleeping on his desk yet again, and that called him even more at the moment. The blonde was always sleeping in class whenever Fortress was around, and the elderly instructor wondered if Naruto was always doing this just to annoy him to no end. However, he decided to not focus on it and went on with the lecture. The elderly instructor did his best to focus on the lesson, but it seemed that Naruto was snoring even more and it was getting on his nerves, and he knew that he would have to do something soon enough. As soon as he finished his lecture on the use of higher level elemental shield spells, he turned and spoke to Naruto. "Naruto Uzumaki woke up and told me if you had been paying attention." The only response he got from Naruto was a snore as the blonde continued to snore, and it was not long before a vein popped on Foltus's head and he roared at the blonde ninja who was still snoring. "Naruto Uzumaki. Wake up." The other students would have cringed in fear at the way Foltus looked at the moment, roaring like an ogre in a foul mood. But still Naruto continued to snore, uncaring for the elderly instructor's anger, and it was not long before Foltus decided that he had enough and was about to use his wand to whack Naruto on the head. As soon as he hit it, however, the blonde grabbed his wand and replied, "I'm trying to sleep here for Kami's sake, to stop making so much racket." Foltus glared and spoke evenly, trying desperately not to lose his temper. "You will release my wand right now, Naruto Uzumaki, or you are going to be in serious trouble." "Right, bye." Foltus and the other students blinked as the blonde mage in training poofed away in a cloud of smoke and was gone. He used that trick again. Arg. Foltus tried to keep his temper from hitting the roof. Every day it was the same thing for the past 10 months. The blonde would always fall asleep in his classes, and then when he was about to discipline him, he just poofed away. And it was maddening to the instructor how disrespectful Naruto was. He was the most senior instructor in the whole guild and was to be respected and feared by all students, but not Naruto. No, the blonde didn't seem to care and did what he liked in his time in the classroom, and the elderly instructor wondered if he was doing all this just for the pleasure of annoying him. There were also times that when he tried to get Naruto do his lessons physically, the blonde would disappear for hours, and when he had hoped the blonde student would suffer for his laziness, he was shocked to learn that not only had he passed the written tests with good scores, but he was able to apply magic in ways Foltus and some other instructors had never thought possible. Many other students have learned to steer clear of Naruto when he was angry. A number of higher seniority students had tried to bully him, as well as taunt him for his lower-born origins and his use of such unknown unarmed combat skills, but they were quick to be silent. As Naruto reacted in very unorthodox but highly effective ways. There had been some who had their potions explode and coat them with chemicals, others had their rooms painted with not just paint but refuse, others would find their robes coated with some sort of powder. And it would burn their clothes so fast when they put them on that they would be naked. Other times, Naruto would use his unarmed combat skills to pound them silently. The academy infirmary would have a lot of students there in their care when some of the more headstrong students failed to get the message. Most other students, however, found Naruto's antics to be somewhat humorous and entertaining, even some instructors, and Carcass found it humorous and very entertaining as well, much to Foltus's disgust on the matter. And he wished that he was able to finally remove Naruto from the grounds of the academy, but since he had been invited by Carwas and sponsored by the head of the guild, there was not much Foltus could do. This would never be the case if I was head of the guild. Foltus knew that now was not the time. He decided to let Naruto have his way for now, he would deal with him later. Unknown to him, the target of his anger was actually elsewhere at the moment. Naruto had sent another Kage Bushin to listen into Foltus's lecture on how to use magic for this day, while sending yet another in the library archives to read up on new books. Naruto never was fan of studying. But after all he had been through in his own world, he realized that education was good to have. Of course, he was not very happy with Foltus. In Naruto's way of seeing things, Foltus loved to talk a lot, no doubt because he thought he was better than other students and instructors, and he liked his own voice, which reminded him of the times he had to deal with Ibisu's long-winded lecture. However, Naruto thought differently about the elite Jounin sensei of his young buddy Konohamaru. But at least unlike Foltus, Ibisu's a good guy in real life. Ibisu had once been a person who looked down on him due to him being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, but after learning the water walking technique from the Jonin, he had to admit that despite Ibisu's closet pervert tendencies he was a good teacher. And after hearing how Ibisu was willing to die than let Pain know where he was when Pain attacked Konoha, he and Ibisu had a better relationship, though Ibisu was still as professional as ever. Foltus on the other hand was too much of a man with too high an opinion of himself, and despite being skilled in magic, Naruto knew that he was not perfect, the guy was too strict, had too much an overinflated ego, and more that was probably why the blonde Chunin enjoyed teasing and annoying Foltus. Besides, without any form of magic, Naruto doubted he'd survive that long on his own. But he did limit his antics, as he did what he could to learn as much as possible from the windbag, after filtering his rhetoric of course. He needed as much information as he could, as he had learned that there were plenty of dangers in this world, which could inhibit his chances of finding the portal that could help him speed his way home. While he had no doubt that the others back in Konoha would do alright, he was still determined to be there since despite the defeat of Akatsuki and Madara, as well as Sasuke, there were always going to be dangers, plus his dream was yet unfulfilled. He was still a Chunin, and he wanted to take the next step and accomplish his dream to be Hokage and be officially recognized as Jonin. And he was not going to accomplish it being here for the rest of his life. He wanted to make sure that he could cover all the bases before he tried anything to get back home or even communicate with Konoha with his toad summoning contract scroll. Gamabunta was still out and being tended to by the other toads back in their home, and he recalled the fact that Gamabunta had a nasty temper when summoned for no reason. The other toads also had to deal with the injuries of the other toads and heal as well. He could summon Gamakichi, but he was not sure if it would be able to work yet. As he got off the roof and entered the hallways to head out, he felt the knowledge come to him from the two Kage Bushin and decided to go grab something to eat at Ofen Restaurant, an entertainment quarter. He was still missing ramen, but at least he could try other foods as well. And then he could go and get some free time training in his ninjutsu, taijutsu, and even try his hand at dispelling genjutsu, something he and the Kyuubi had worked on. Naruto turned and was ready for a fight and reached for a kunai from his hip pouch when he recognized the speaker to be Ayla, and he smiled in greeting her. Ayla had grown considerably in the past few months and had gone from the knobby-kneed skinny adolescent to a full-bloomed woman, and she was more than looking the part. Ayla smiled at her friend and wanted to know just what he was up to this time. Over the months, Ayla had found herself getting very attracted to the blonde student. It had made her very happy to hear that he had been able to enter the guild under Caress's invitation, and she wanted to get his attention. And truth be told, Naruto was affected by that. After all, he was already 17, and he found women to be very attractive, and Ayla was no exception to the rule, and he was tempted to flirt back when she did, but he was still very much attached to Hinata and Sakura, who were important to him. They had become very close for the past year after all that had happened, and while the idea of being with them was very nice to his mind, he was not sure that getting into a romance with Ayla was a good idea when he would get back to his world. Still, Ayla was someone he was attracted to, and she was a good friend after all. "Oh, it's just you, Ayla. What's up? Are you skipping class again? Master Fortress is going to blow a gasket if you do that again." Naruto snorted a bit and replied. "I already got as much as I could from Foltest for the day. I don't think listening to him drone on again is going to do me much good anyway. But he'll have you sent to the forest to get firewood again." Naruto shrugged at that. Back in his travels with his fellow ninja, they had to learn survival in the wild, and after being with the pervy sage for a number of years on the move, he was more than skilled in handling himself in the wild. Big deal, at least I get to do something productive with my time, plus being outside of the classroom is very nice. Plus I have some privacy there too to get the chance to perfect my techniques a good deal more. Ayla sighed at that and wished she had the adventuring spirit of her friend. Nothing would please her more than to go out on an adventure with Naruto. But she was a novice, and Naruto had accomplished quite a lot in a few months that normally took her years before she met him. He had mastered a number of high-level spells and was very creative in his ways of learning spells and making new ones, something that gained a great deal of admiration from the more relaxed and accepting instructors and students. There were those who disliked Naruto's successes and they wanted to do what they could to learn Naruto's talents and upstage him to prove they were better. There were two of the worst ones. So, you're going to be sent to the forest to start hauling wood again, Naruto. Good, you belong in the forest with all the wild animals. Bro, that's harsh. Naruto would insult the animals if he was with them. He deserves to be elsewhere, say the garbage dump hauling trash instead of wood. Good point, brother. Both Ayla and Naruto turned, and there before them were two of Naruto's tormentors, Garrett and his younger brother Hayden. Both twins had silver hair and deep green eyes and had been thorns on Naruto, and Ayla sighed for all the times he had been a student here. Garrett was the taller one, as well as thinner in body strength, while Hayden was the shorter one, but a bit pudgy, though not that fat in the least. Both of them sneered at the blonde Chunin, and it grated on Naruto's nerves that he had to deal with these two windbags yet again. The two had been a pain in his ass for a long time now, and it was getting to the point Naruto was in the mood to do something drastic and painful to the two of them for them to get the message that he had had enough of their antics for one lifetime. Barrett started first. Going out to train once more with those stupid techniques of yours, Naruto. At the rate you're going, you would be an old man before you even graduate. He's right, maybe by the time you two graduate, Ayla would be free of your influence. Hayden gave Ayla a leering look, much to Ayla's disgust and Naruto's own temper. The younger of the twins had an unhealthy obsession with Ayla and had been trying to get her affections for some time now. Ayla flatly refused to have any sort of relationship. And Hayden didn't take too kindly to that and continued to annoy Ayla. When he showed up, he started standing up for Ayla, and that got Hayden to dislike him. Garrett was also there to annoy him since before Garrett had once been a top student and many respected and feared him, but that all changed. I won't go out with you, Hayden, in a million years. Naruto then replied. If I were to recall, those said techniques were the reason I pounded you and your little brother to the ground last week. Barrett and Hayden growled at that, and they recalled the time they had challenged him to a 2-on-1 duel with magic, and they had made the rule of Naruto having an arcane reduction bracelet on him. Thanks for watching my video. See you next time, till then sayonara.